Durant blows by Primo. Attack!
Jokic in the power. Here it goes. Got it. Denver has won.
But that's my stubborn side. Like, it's easy to go somewhere and go and win a championship with somebody else. It's easy. But this is the hard way to do it, and we did it.
We welcome you in to another episode of Small Ball Podcast. Next to me is Scott Ayers. Behind the camera, behind the mic is our producer, Andy, and I am Christian Dennis. Trevor Mikulin will be out for another episode. Maybe he'll be back next week. Maybe he won't. Scott, how the heck are you, man?
You did that really well. You sounded better than I did, truthfully.
I just watched you, and I listened to what you say, and you just provided me the blueprint.
I gave you a blueprint, and you had a chisel, and you've been working away for a while. So for those who listen, those who just listen on Spotify, close your eyes. For those who are watching on YouTube, you can kind of picture it. You've been kind of chiseling away. Okay, there's a statue in front of me, and slowly but surely that statue's turned into the intro of the Small Ball Podcast. And you've done that. You did that really well. Not only is Andy behind the camera, he's behind the audio.
Yeah, did you practice that in the mirror or something? That was good.
No, I've always jokingly made fun of announcers at basketball games. And so I feel like that just really came out, and that was all organic, natural. That was off the dome. But yeah, I guess some people got it and some people don't,
Yeah, you got that dog in you.
I do. We're back to barking, baby.
And we're back to barking. This is a dog household. Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, one of our dogs, Trevor Mikulin, Astray, has been led astray. Yeah. And it's been kind of the running. It's been kind of the running bit here. Trevor obviously being in Sacramento. We've been kind of getting some different pieces of Sacramento. So if you're listening for the first time on Spotify or YouTube, we want to say thank you right now. Really means a lot. But we ask that even if you just go back and listen to the start of those other episodes, you'll kind of have a better picture of the great city of Sacramento. We've learned the best holidays are New Year, the 4th of July and Christmas. Mm-hmm. We've learned what the Bachelorette would say if she got off the plane. Mm-hmm. The Bachelorette from the great show, The Bachelorette. And we've just learned a little bit more about the city of Sacramento.
Yeah.
What is one thing Sacramento has that the rest of the world lacks, not including the Sacramento Kings?
The city of Sacramento has a unique vibe to it. It's very quiet and calm, but yet it's the capital of one of the greatest states in the United States, the Sunshine State. I don't even know if that's what people call California. The Golden Gate State. The Golden State. The Golden State is what I meant to say.
Is it Sunshine State? Is that Florida?
Yeah.
No, they're the Gold Coast.
Well, who's the Sunshine State?
No, I'm pretty sure Sunshine State is Florida.
It's Florida.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're the Golden State. That's where we discovered gold. And for all you history nuts out there, there is a place called Sutter's Fort. That is where John Sutter settled down and was searching for gold in the American River. So you can look it up. I don't care if I'm wrong, but that is a place. I went there for 4th grade, and it was really cool.
That's really special. I did check. Sunshine State is Florida. Producer Andy. I had to make sure we got one thing right on this podcast here today. But yeah, that's really interesting. I think a lot of people we have a lot of history nuts. Outside basketball, the second most things that we get emailed and asked about is U.S. history.
Yeah.
So it is nice to know that you're able to provide that for our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the listeners want, I'll do. You know, I'm here to, give you guys entertainment and content. So, just keep emailing us. Put a comment. What do you want us to talk about? Because obviously we're in that point of the season where basketball is very dead, and we want to talk about something that provides excitement. So if that's U.S. history right now, then let's list off the presidents right now. Let's go. Okay, go.
Benjamin Franklin.
Okay.
All right. Okay, maybe not.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do is I'll have you ask a question about U.S. history. We'll do like 13 seconds of research.
Okay.
And then we will answer those questions.
Okay.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Because we are in the dog days of summer. We are on our tour covering different teams in the NBA. But seriously, if you have questions, ask. We want to make these episodes fun, engaging, and obviously talk about if your favorite team today is the Memphis Grizzlies, you're in luck, or if you're just trying to learn a little bit more about teams in the NBA and the landscape of the NBA in small to mid-market teams, you've come to the right place. And occasionally you'll hear about U.S. history. Sometimes you'll hear about our great producer and his love life, which we were able to hear about that last episode. We've got it all here on the Small Ball Podcast. I don't really think there's any other space that provides that kind of information.
No. I mean, how many times have you tuned into a podcast and they're talking about what to do in Sacramento and, what holidays are, like there? You don't get that on a basketball podcast.
You don't get that. You don't get what it's like talking to a doctor who calls you off hours.
Yep.
You don't get that anywhere else except for here on the Small Ball Podcast. And that is the perfect time because we will actually move into our discussion of basketball. We've loosened up. We feel good. Producer Andy looks good. Andy, say something.
Something.
That is how I know Andy's feeling good. Benjamin Franklin and something with this guy. That is what we are living for. And we are talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, who will probably be one of the more exciting teams in the NBA for who knows how long, next 5 to 10 seasons, which is awesome. And it really was a breakout year for the Grizzlies this last season. They fall in the playoffs to Golden State in the second round. But really, John Morant has emerged as a budding superstar, not just a star, superstar in the NBA.
Yeah, I think I could say it for almost everyone, but the Memphis Grizzlies surprised us, the entire league. We did not know that they were going to be this good of a team. I did not expect them to go from playing in the play-in to being the number 2 team in the West. That's a tremendous jump, and that is partially because of Ja. There was an extended period of time where he wasn't playing, and the Memphis Grizzlies did not skip a beat. Thanks to Tyus Jones and other role players that kind of stepped up in place of Ja being out. So they have a great culture, grit and grind. They're tough. You don't want to play them. They're just a kind of a team that is just like, I'm going to come out of this game and I'm going to be pretty bruised up. I'm going to be needing that ice bath as soon as I'm done with the game. So I love that they're kind of going with that identity. I hope they can kind of in a way dial it back because I feel like their attitude is getting them in a little bit of trouble. We kind of saw it in the Warriors series that, you don't bite the bull.
Start to get a bit of a target on your back, and you mentioned a bull, and there was a big old red target, it felt like, on Memphis in that series, and it was interesting. We won't talk about this too much, but if there's one guy you really don't want to take off, it's Steph Curry, and especially a team that has won championships. It's one thing if it was like Denver, because Denver, furthest they've gotten is a Western Conference final.
Right.
That's great. But you're doing that to, perennial champions, not all-stars, champions. That's where there was a bit of an issue there. But if you're a Memphis fan, you have to love that, right? Like, you want something like that because if you look 5 years ago, Memphis, I think, had 22 wins. And now here they are. They go from play-in to the number 2 team in the Western Conference. And we mentioned John Morant, he missed time. He only played in 57 games last season, which you hear that a budding superstar misses that much time and they finish second in the West. You really have to credit Taylor Jenkins. I thought he did a phenomenal job this past season with Memphis, but a lot of the guys really stepped up as well. Jaren Jackson Jr., we finally got to see what he was capable of, was just a menace on the defensive side of the basketball, 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. I love Steven Adams at that center position as well. Like, what a gritty front court. You kind of mentioned it, just nasty basketball that will give people fits. And then, of course, the emergence of Desmond Bane, who was phenomenal this last season.
Yeah, Bane's improvement as well as Ja. I mean, they were basically both in the running for most improved. Obviously, Ja won, which that's a completely different topic because how do you go from Rookie of the Year to most improved? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But having Desmond Bane make that improvement is kind of a little bit what no one expected. You know, he showed some good signs as a rookie, but to have him basically be now a starter in this league is awesome for the Grizzlies. He kind of does pair well with Ja too, because he's pretty solid defensively and he can shoot the outside ball. So, you know, that's a good running mate with Ja. And I'm just excited to kind of see the team grow because they're very, very young. And for them to make these improvements and still be young, they could be scary come, a couple years down the road. But one player that I really like was the rookie this year, Zaire Williams. He kind of started off a little slow, but towards the end of the year, started to play really well.
Yeah, he did, as did other role players like D'Anthony Melton was great. Dylan Brooks, when healthy, was solid. Heck, he was second on the team in scoring, but he only played 32 games. So that's kind of where maybe don't take all the eggs in one basket right there. But overall, they had a lot of guys step up when Ja was out. They played well in the playoffs. They fall short, but you fall short to the NBA champs. I don't really think that's something you hang your hat on, especially from where they had been. As a fan, you have to start to get excited for what the future holds, because I do think the next 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, Memphis is going to be very competitive. And I don't necessarily know when that championship window opens. It might be open right now. It's just that window is going to be a bit of a climb to get through, which makes sense because of how good the Western Conference is.
Yeah, I mean, if Jaren Jackson Jr. can stay healthy and he can continue to improve to be that second running mate with Ja, there could be some noise there. I think Ja he needs someone who can elevate him, play on his level, in order to make them serious contenders.
Andy, you got something for us?
No, I completely agree, Christian. I think what he needs is kind of what he's figured out in this past year. So I love the Memphis Grizzlies. They're like one of my favorite teams to watch. And so I've always thought that the Steven Adams signing was kind of odd. And so I've been like kind of wondering and doing more research into it. And this account, MBA_University, they post a lot of great advanced stats that are easily digestible for ordinary NBA fans. And so they kind of like show a graph of how the pick and rolls work with Ja and the other role players on the team. And the relationship that they have, or that Ja has with Steven Adams, is insane. Like their pick and roll synergy is wild. Like I think he's doing 15 screens a game and he's getting 1.2 points per screen.
No way.
So like this is working more than 50% of the time, and it's not even with like just him, it's with other players. Like all the other players, I think the highest is like 5 pick and rolls per game. So the pick and roll with Steven Adams and Ja Morant has been working magnificently well. And so if they as long as they continue that, I think we could see a big step taken like from John Morant that we could see like maybe a MVP season.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love that you bring up Steven Adams because offensively, that is an awesome stat to bring up that I think will get overlooked by a lot of people. But also defensively, I think he's a great neutralizer against some of the great bigs in the Western Conference. And, you know, for teams like Minnesota and Denver that pride themselves on having really talented bigs in Cat and Jokic, they are given fits from Steven Adams. So that's huge on the defensive standpoint, not to mention John Morant on the offensive side of the basketball, which you mentioned potential MVP season. Maybe that's something that we want to get into. I think that he has the potential to be the MVP in the NBA. It's just, can he get past Giannis? Can he get past Embiid? Can he get past probably another bid by LeBron? I would say those are probably the top three names just because I think voter fatigue has Jokic out of that mix. And, of course, Luka Doncic. I can't forget about Luka either. But Jaw's in that conversation. There's no doubt there at all.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, maybe this year, starting off the season with Jaren Jackson Jr. out, it may require him to be a little bit more aggressive from an offensive standpoint to where, you know, maybe he's putting up insane numbers to start the year. And that's a point that can really improve his ability to become MVP. He's going to put the whole city of Memphis on his back. He's going to wear it with honor, and he's going to try to do whatever he can because he just embraced the city and culture so much that for Ja, it's a great system for him to be in because he's just going to improve and keep improving.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a sec? Because, like, has there been another player that just fits the mold of a city more than John Morant? Like, this has just worked perfectly. I can't remember the last time where I think maybe like he gets this player comp a lot is Derrick Rose, where an entire city is just right behind a player and the players behind the city and like everybody's just on the same page. Like it's kind of rare with superstars, especially in today's league where a superstar can go every which way. But to see that on Memphis, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. The player that I thought of, which I thought you were going to say it, is actually Allen Iverson in Philly.
Oh.
Like both really talented guards who are athletic, sneaky, little bit smaller, just embraced by the city and just they love each other back, and it's just kind of a match made in heaven.
Mm-hmm. And they've got an awesome chip on their shoulder too.
They do.
Which I think that's one of Jaw's like greatest things is he really does play with a chip on his shoulder. He plays with a little bit of attitude, but I think that's great. I think if you're a fan of Memphis, there's no way you would ever be like, oh gosh, I wish Ja would stop celebrating. Right? Like you're not thinking that. You're thinking, holy cow, we have a potential MVP on our team who loves our city, and that's giving us competitive basketball, which what a treat for Memphis to have. And let's kind of look at their offseason as well, because that is important. We've mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr. going to be out 4 to 6 months with a foot injury. So that's going to be painful because there's a possible timetable where he doesn't return until December, January, because sometimes those injuries linger on. So who's going to fill his roles and who do they lose? I think really the thing that hurts most with this injury is Kyle Anderson, no longer on the team, who slow-mo played actually a pretty pivotal role in Memphis, was really solid for the Grizz. And so to lose him and have this injury as well, I think these first few months of the season, Memphis will be fine, but it's going to be a little bit tougher than they'd want.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, losing a player who's a solid veteran like Slow-Mo, who could fit that role of playing a 4 in place of Jaren Jackson Jr. would be very helpful for the Grizzlies. But I think that Brandon Clark is going to have a really solid year. I don't see why he wouldn't kind of start the season in that starting role at the power forward. He gives you a little bit of a different look than like having Steven Adams of, you know, Steven's going to be close to the rim. He's not as athletic as Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark can even stretch the offense a little bit with his 3-point shooting. You add another awesome athlete to the lineup, which can give teams, defensive issues, and having a lob threat for Ja could be something that adds a different element to their game. So I kind of expect Brandon Clark to make a little bit of a step this year. He is going into like a contract year, so I would expect some big involvement with him at the start of the season at least.
I would completely agree with that. Yeah, I was looking to see who's kind of be at that small forward position, because John Bain at 1-2, probably Dylan Brooks as a 2, Bain at 3, maybe be a little bit smaller. Brooks comes off the bench. That's maybe the one question I would have that they could get creative with. Not that it's a bad thing by any means. But I will say, too, this is kind of a quick side thing, as I actually loved their draft and their offseason. Kenny Lofton Jr., and Christian, I know you've talked about him before the draft, and you really liked his game. And we watched just some clips in summer ball. If you're a Memphis fan, you probably already know this, but watching him bully Chet Holmgren was probably my summer highlight. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's not me just trying to boost up Memphis fans, but it was my highlight of the summer to watch Kenny Lofton Jr., a guy who goes undrafted, push around a dude that has gotten crazy high comparisons.
Right. I mean, it's cool too because like Kenny Lofton Jr. and Chet played on like USA teams together, so like they're very familiar with each other, and I think Chet even acknowledged it at the end of the game that they play. He's like, yeah, that's my boy. Like, we're always going to try to fight each other and make each other better on the court. So there's just a lot of respect there between the two. But Kenny Lofton Jr. is definitely a wild card. And I'm excited to see what he can do in the league. I don't know if he'll do a whole lot. I kind of just hope to see him do a lot, or be, in a little bit of the rotation. But yeah, they have like 4 rookies this year, 4 or 5, with David Roddy, who's another interesting player because he's a little bit undersized, but he showed some pretty good skill at Colorado State.
He was great at CSU, and that I think was his one big knock was his size, because I think if he's got an extra 3 inches, he's probably a top 15 pick because of his skill set. So that's going to be the one interesting player too, in my mind, just because we know his skill set, but is that height going to be a huge disadvantage for him? It's still hard to see. Vincent Williams, the second in the second round from VCU, as well as Kennedy Chandler. Chandler, I think, was brought in just in case they've got some issues at the guard position with injuries. Those are probably going to be guys that starting out will be in the G League. And then, of course, Jake LaRivia, yeah, from Wake Forest, who small forward. So he's not going to start day one, but he'll find his way into the rotation, or at least that is the hope if you're a Memphis fan.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of draft scouts were really high on him, and so I think there's a lot of excitement there. He can be pretty solid defensively, and I mean, with the Grizzlies, like I said before, the grit and grind, they're going to be tough to play. It's like you're going to be looking at your schedule, but we got the Grizzlies tonight, like. Geez, this isn't going to be an easy fight. And I just love that, from your main guy to the guy who's on a 2-way contract, you just know it's going to be a battle. And I don't see Jake playing a whole lot to start. I personally think it's Dylan Brooks at the 3 there, and then Zaire Williams is probably backing him up. So he could be playing a little bit third string, small forward, maybe even play a little power forward, just depending on the depth that the Grizzlies have. But yeah, they have a lot of really good rookies coming in. I like the fact that they drafted Kennedy Chandler because he went to Tennessee. So it's like a little nod to the local boy. Like, hey man, like this state loves you. This city loves you. And, we're going to continue to rock with you. It's not a terrible third string point guard. You just traded away Melton to give more minutes to Tyus Jones. And then, Memphis has proven to have really good development. So getting another young guy into their system can be a really good asset for the Grizzlies in the coming years.
Yeah. And that's why I liked Lofton with Memphis, because I feel as though if any team can make Lofton into something, it's Memphis. It feels right that he's in Memphis because he plays with a chip on his shoulder, kind of bullied some people around in summer league, and is going to be kind of a fun story to watch regardless of where he ends up, which leads us into what we expect from Memphis this upcoming season. They finished second in the West a season ago. They're going to have some injury issues at the start of this year with Jaren Jackson Jr., and they've had injuries in the past at that guard play, Dillon Brooks and John Morant. So, Christian, the question is posed to you. What does Memphis, what does this regular season look like, and what are expectations for the Grizzlies?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of a drop off for the Grizzlies. It's a year where teams have been able to maybe figure them out a little bit. So we might see them struggle just a little bit. Not saying it's going to be a huge thing, but it's not going to be as easy as it was for them. And of course, we've mentioned before that teams that were below them gotten better just because they've gotten healthier. So, teams are getting healthy. They're already struggling with injuries. They might catch a few L's towards the beginning of the year. So I kind of see them hovering around maybe like that 5th seed. I feel like that's fair. 5th, 6th, depending on how their injuries are, maybe even dropping into the play-in. But I think they definitely are a playoff team, just because of what they did last year and the coaching staff that they have and culture that they have. I think they're just going to be a tough team, and they're going to be a tough team to play in the playoffs. I would not want to necessarily see them.
No, and for whatever reason, every time you think of Memphis in the playoffs, it's always just gritty basketball. Yeah. You never want to have Memphis in a matchup. But yeah, I had them around that 5th spot as well. The name of the game in the NBA is health. That feels like more than half the battle. Oftentimes an NBA champion is crowned because their team just stayed healthy and the teams around them did not. And so that plays a huge role into it. And I'm not saying that Memphis is going to be injured until the playoffs, but if you start the playoffs as a 5 seed, that makes your life a whole lot harder than if you start as a 2 or a 3 seed. Mm-hmm. And so I like Memphis as a 5 seed, but I do see them as a competitor to win the West. I don't say that in a sense where they don't have a chance. It just means that they're going to have to now deal with new challengers in the Clippers. I think the Lakers are going to find their way into that mix, and then everyone else around them, right? Denver, Phoenix, Minnesota,
New Orleans.
Yeah, it's like pick your poison. None of those teams you want to play against in the playoffs, and all of those teams, unless something happens, are going to be there, and they're going to be a pain in the rear. Which, as an NBA fan, how awesome does that sound? On paper right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds so friggin' good. But knowing the NBA, like, come December, there's going to be 4 good teams and everyone else is just going to absolutely reek.
Yeah, it's funny, like, off season, how we just, like, look at the standings. We're like, man, these teams are so good. And then season comes around and, like, the teams like the Lakers are butt cheeks. And it's like, who would have expected that team to be so bad, And it's just like, you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. I mean, like, you can have some feelers, but, like, you just, at the end of the day, you just don't know. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, who's going to get injured. That's what makes this league so interesting. Is just the fact that you just have no idea if anyone is going to be, healthy and as good as they are.
Yeah. No, and that's going to be something telling here in the coming months. That's why when we're talking basketball in the middle of August, it's like, we can speculate, but we don't know what the hell's going to happen. And that's what's fun. It's fun to talk. It's fun to watch. It's fun to discuss. Yeah, no, this might be going down, but in reality, it's all just talking until October when we actually see the guys hit the court again.
Yeah. And, at this point of the season, I guess the off season, all I can think about when we brought up the fact that we're going to talk about the Grizzlies is just how much Ja Morant's dad looks like Usher. Like, that was like the most exciting thing I could think of. I was like, dude, he looks just like Usher.
He looks just like Usher. It's unbelievable.
It's honestly kind of amazing. I'm kind of surprised Ja doesn't look more like Usher.
I thought it was a bit. I thought the first time they showed Ja's dad, I was like, why are they showing Usher right now? Which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool to have that look-alike.
Yep.
They say my look-alike is Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I see it.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much,
both
Christian.
are blonde.
We're both blonde, handsome, toned, the god of thunder.
Yeah. No, that's definitely how I describe you to everyone.
So my girlfriend says. She calls me her god of thunder.
I doubt she does. Has she even seen like Thor?
No, she doesn't like superhero
Yeah,
movies.
she does not seem like that type of person.
Yeah, actually, she would be the last person on this planet to call me the god of thunder, which is shocking.
Maybe you should ask her.
Hey, yeah, I'm going to show her like just different pictures. I'm like, do I remind you of this, the god of thunder?
You could just like bring it up like casually, be like, I just love the fact that we have like pet names, and then like it's I just like whenever you call me the god of thunder, I just feel like so empowered.
Strong inside. Yeah. It's all about winning her over in that sense.
Yeah.
One final fun tidbit last season for Memphis. That actually was the best record that they had. That tied for the best record that they ever had in franchise history. So I think as a Memphis fan, which happened in 2012, the 2012-2013 season. So kind of cool for Memphis that they bring back some of those feelings, because when they're good, that fan base is really fun. Just kind of like it's really fun to be called the God of Thunder. So for producer Andy and my great friend Christian Dennis, I'm Scott Ayers. We say so long for now, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. That was Usher.
Hey, great job. You made it to the end of the video. We thank you so much for watching us here on the Small Ball Podcast. We're the only channel covering small to mid-market teams. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Find us on Instagram at Small Ball Podcast. Thanks so much, guys.